Hello everyone, Sharif here, and today I wanted to walk you through this product craft triangle that some of you have heard about. I get asked by a few teams, what is it, how do we use it, that kind of stuff. I've heard about it, how do I use it within my team? So let's jump into a really quick presentation on the product craft triangle and how you can use it. So for those of you who don't know, Joff Redfern, our current VP of product, used and created this product craft triangle years ago in his time at LinkedIn. It's a simple framework for helping you identify where your product manager skills are and where you would like to go. Now, let's zoom back a bit. Why do we want to think about this? You may want to look at this video for two reasons. One, you're a person who's looking at your professional development. How can I get better as a product manager? What do I need to grow in? How do I think about framing the activities that I want to do? Or secondly, maybe you're looking after a team or you're within a team trying to build a balanced team. You need to identify the different gaps within your product management team and which kinds of product managers do you need. I found this framework to be helpful in both these scenarios for myself and when I've been managing teams. Now, there's lots of product management frameworks out there. If you just Google them, there is a lot of things out there. I put this in there as a bit of humor, but I just wanted to reiterate, remember, a framework is not, doesn't have to be the final thing and everything. It's a way of thinking about things. Please focus on what is it you're really trying to do over obsessing over the frameworks. But there is, generally speaking, there's a few different frameworks for classifying or identifying different types of product managers. So you can go check them out. I like Joff's because it's quite simple and it works pretty easily for most of the conversations that I have been having. So this is the framework. It's called the Product PM Craft Triangle. You can Google it. It's on that link there from Joff, and you can go read all about it. At a very, very overly simplistic level, you can read the blog. It's not a big blog, but it has, there are three areas of the triangle: a general manager, an artist, and a scientist. And you want to think about where you are in this triangle and how you'd like to improve, or if you're building a team, where your team members are in this triangle, their trajectory of where they're headed, and where the gaps that lie in your team for where your team wants to head. So I'll let you read the framework, and I'm assuming you read the blog before this presentation. I want to focus a little bit more on how you think about the framework and how do you apply it, and what does it mean to be in an edge of a triangle or that kind of stuff. Three areas of the triangle: the scientist, the artist, and the general manager, the three edges of the triangle. Important to note, the triangle, I think you've asked Joff, hey, boss, Joff is my boss, so I got to be nice to him. I'm assuming the top of the triangle doesn't necessarily mean it's the top, because some people see general manager up the top and think, oh, I have to be there. No, I'm guessing it doesn't matter where those things are, they're everywhere. But there are three edges to the triangle: the scientist edge, which is really someone who's more quantitatively driven, someone who's obsessed with data, hypothesis driven, talks about confidence levels, maybe lots of maths and comfortable with their numbers. An artist, maybe who's more vision driven, inspired by design, head over heart, heart over head kind of person, can be more emotional in a good way, like in terms of engaging connection through inspiration that way, or storytelling. And then you've got the general manager, who is goal and market driven, looking at all aspects of the business, not just the product, thinking about support, profit and loss, pricing, sales, channel enablement, business development, all that kind of stuff. And so those are the edges of the triangle, if you like. So what do I do with this triangle? The first thing to answer for yourself is, where am I today? Now, I would encourage people to have this mindset in mind. Like you do product discovery in many of your product teams, same thing with learning about your PM craft. It's a discovery process. If you're unsure, you may want to try different activities that each of these edges of the triangle represent and learn more about them to see where you are. When I talk to a lot of product managers, they tell me they think they start mostly in the middle, which is, I've got some background in something, but I think I'm good at a little bit of everything, and that's how I fell into product management. So that's a common pattern I've observed. But I will call out, it's hard to say that you want the middle to be where you grow into, and I'll talk about that in a sec. The other thing that's very hard is identifying your biases. You have recency bias, you have proximity bias, you have like what you think you would like to be, or what you think is more aspirational. Look, there's no one size fits all here. I found the general idea of asking your team members, where do you think I am in this triangle, after explaining the triangle to them, is a good technique to level set or where you are today. Asking your manager, asking your peers, or reverse engineering. So write down all the activities you've recently done. What do you enjoy the most? And then, you may find they gravitate towards one of the edges of this triangle. You've also got, to complicate things further, you've also got this nature versus nurture debate. What am I naturally good at? What do I need to evolve? It's hard to decide if you haven't tried. I always like to think of things as everyone's already got some gifting of some kind of thing. What is it that you want to keep working on? Is it that, or you want to do something else? Plus, don't forget to add what you enjoy. So you may see this triangle, but you may think you're somewhere, but you also want to ask yourself, what activities have I done lately that I enjoyed? And that may influence how you think about where you are today and where you excel. So the next thing is, what do I want? Where do I want to go? Or where do I want my team to go, if you're looking at this from a holistic team level? I've put a second triangle here to help frame relativity. Oh, that was hard to say. Relativity. I'm going to stop now because it's a video. But where do you want to go next? Now, the way to think about this triangle as you go in to play with this with your team is the edges and the center. I'll talk about the center in a sec. Think of that as you're at the top of your game. Like if you're hitting a boundary in any sort of way, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the corners, but it could be any sort of edge. Then you want to say that's excelling. Example, if you're in the general manager all the way can I get my mouse here? Yes, I can. So if you're up here, you're at the top of the general manager game. If you're at the edge here, you're saying, I am an amazing general manager and scientist, 50-50 combined sort of thing. That's sort of what you're saying. Or down here, etc. And I'll talk about the middle in a sec. So if you're towards one edge, you're really saying, I am excelling, or I aspire to be excelling in that area. Don't forget, you're going to probably place two dots, the dot of where you are and the dot of where you want to go. In this example, it doesn't really matter which one that is, but in this dot here, it's saying that this person is, or they want to be, an amazing scientist, if it's where they are, where they want to go. So think about placing two dots, where you are today and where you want to go. The other thing to think about is the middle of between two edges. So in this case, I am in between artist and general manager. So I am maybe a vision-led type of PM that's quite visually driven and that kind of stuff. So that's how you could think of where I am or where I would like to head. For me personally, as I've learned over the years, I've been doing PM for 11 years now. I actually think I started somewhere towards the bottom. Actually, let me use my mouse. I think I started somewhere down here in this triangle, and I found over the years I've been heading more and more towards this corner, and I've enjoyed it. And so that's been a deliberate decision of mine, and that's what I've done. So have a think about where you are, where you want to go. So that's if you're in between two edges. The next thing is you get a lot of people say, I want to be in the middle. And now, never say never, but saying you're on one edge means you're excelling at one thing really well. So that's the artist example here. If you're in between two edges, you're saying, hey, I'm kind of somewhere between an artist and a general manager, and I'm excelling at this pretty well. If you're right in the middle and you want to remain in the middle and grow in the middle, you're saying, I'm going to excel at three things really well, which is the general manager, the scientist, and the artist. It is possible. I've called this the Steve Jobs middle. I just think it's incredibly hard, personally. Or you may be good enough in a couple of areas, but you really excel in one, if you're thinking like that. I have met a few people that are like this, but generally speaking, even at Atlassian, I think I'm only aware of one person that I think is genuinely in the middle, and, you'll be in a meeting with them and they'll critique the data you've just displayed in an incredible level of depth. They'll talk about all ways of transforming your business model, but then talk about the visual design and interactions, and talk about the user journeys and optimizing that. And they'll balance those amazingly. They're really hard to come by as generalists that excel at a lot of them. I would argue we do not have many of them, but that's something really hard to do. It may be something you want to do, or you feel like you're actually in this area. Then that's awesome, but it's a challenge. So the last thing I'll call out here is the obvious thing, but is worth calling out. do not confuse the position in this triangle, whether or not you want to be an individual contributor or a manager. The fact that you're in the general manager doesn't necessarily mean you have to manage people, and inversely is true as well. You can be a manager on the scientist edge of the triangle. You can be a general manager not managing any people. In fact, I would argue a lot of the PMs that Lassie and I meet actually probably fit towards the top of the triangle or towards the right. And they're not managing any people, but they need to do a lot of GM type of skills in the role that they're currently in. So that's something else to think about there. The last thing I'll leave you with a reflection with is a podcast I heard last year, and it's still stuck with me today. What managers get wrong about feedback and growth. You can check out the link there. The summary of this at a really high level is find what excelling at your career. You could have two mental models. I need to try new skills and go across this triangle as much as I can, or I can find which edge of the triangle or side of the triangle I am excited and enjoy, and I enjoy doing and have lots of fun, and I'm just going to get 1,000 times better at it. This podcast has a bunch of researchers that look into this, and their argument is that the best way to excel at your career is to find the thing you're good at and just get better at it. I love there's a quote in the podcast, I can't remember exactly the words, but you'll have to listen to it, but it's something like, thinking about your career growth plan starts by hearing from your manager or other people saying good job, because that's probably a signal that that's the area you need to head towards, whatever. Personally, I've taken this advice from other people, and I heard it again reaffirmed recently in this piece of research. But, thinking that I need to be a generalist at everything, especially in growing organizations, is quite hard to find a perfect role for you. But it's also may not be the best way to accelerate your career. Think of a sports person who does a 100-meter sprint. They just do a 100-meter sprint every day and try to get better at it for the whole of their careers. Sounds a bit depressing. I don't think I could ever do that. But anyway, it's not the case with product management. Think about what you're good at and what you enjoy doing, and then just try to get better at it over time. Don't forget, in growing organizations, you can always balance yourself with a team that can complement you. So next steps. If you're thinking about this from personal development, where am I today? Where would I like to go? Plot those two dots. Think of the edges. Think of the biases. Don't think of the people around you and ask them where they think you are in the triangle and all that kind of stuff. Have a discussion with your manager and your team. If you're thinking about building a product teams, thinking about the trajectory of your team members first is really helpful. And then thinking about what your team's mission is, where you need to grow, what kind of person you might need, depending on the product team that you're building, may influence how you think about your next hire. So that's it from me. I've gone way more time than I thought I would, and I'm talking at 2 speeds, so hopefully you've got it all. But PM Craft Triangle, give it a go. I'd love to hear how it went. And see you later.